The stars stretched endlessly across the viewport, glittering like scattered jewels against the black fabric of space. Aboard the human starship Resolute, Sergeant Alex Rains stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the alien constellations pass by. The Valor sector was known across human colonies for its harsh rulers and proud, unyielding alien civilization. Yet here he was, the first human soldier to enter the heart of their empire, and somehow, the first to be personally noticed by the Valor princess herself. The Resolute slowed as it approached the massive orbital platform that served as the entry point to the Valor capital. It hung in space like a giant crystal, its surface gleaming silver and blue under the distant light of a dying sun. Humans had mapped the sector carefully, every asteroid belt, every gravitational anomaly, every patrol route. But no map could prepare them for the weight of alien pride that waited inside those walls. Alex had trained for this mission for years. He knew that diplomacy would often hide deeper dangers than any battlefield he had ever faced. Yet he had not expected the sheer audacity of the Valor to strike him before he even set foot on their soil. As the human delegation disembarked, their boots clicked against the platform's smooth metal floor. The airlock hissed behind them, sealing them into the alien environment. Alex's helmet was under his arm. He preferred to meet the Valors face-to-face without the barrier of technology. The princess, a towering figure with iridescent scales and eyes like molten gold, waited at the center of the hall. Her presence was impossible to ignore, radiating authority and expectation. "Welcome, humans," her voice echoed, musical yet sharp, each word deliberately pointed. Her gaze locked onto Alex. "You are unusually armored for diplomats. Perhaps you expect violence before words?" Her tone dripped with condescension. Alex felt the eyes of every alien in the room on him. The princess's words were intended to humiliate, to test him, to prove that humans were weak and foolish. Many would have clenched their fists or responded with anger. Alex did neither. He simply nodded, calm, steady, as if the princess's words were irrelevant. Without a word, he began to remove his armor. First the chest plate, then the gauntlets, and finally the helmet, which he placed carefully on the polished floor. Every motion was deliberate, precise, and without hesitation. The room fell silent, the only sound the faint hum of the platform's power systems. The princess's expression flickered. She had expected anger, fear, or flattery. None of it came. Instead, this human soldier stood there, bare-handed, unarmored, and unbroken. The silence was louder than any roar, and for a moment the Valor court seemed unsure how to react. Alex stepped forward slowly, his eyes meeting hers without a hint of defiance or fear. "I do not need armor to stand here," he said simply. "My worth is not measured by what I wear or how you judge me." His voice was quiet but firm, carrying the weight of humanity itself, the unyielding persistence of a species that had survived wars, plagues, and countless cosmic threats. Some of the Valors whispered among themselves, their soft clicks and hisses betraying a mixture of confusion and awe. Others, particularly the older and higher-ranking members of the court, stiffened, their pride challenged by a species they considered inferior. The princess's lips pressed into a thin line. Her plan had been to embarrass the humans, to assert dominance over them in a single, humiliating moment. Instead, she found herself facing a calm, resolute human who refused to be diminished. One of her advisors leaned toward her, speaking in a low tone. Alex could not understand the words, but he felt their meaning: warning, curiosity, disbelief. He did not flinch. Instead, he let his presence speak louder than any words could. Humans, he knew, were strongest not when they shouted or struck, but when they stood their ground with integrity. The princess's gaze hardened. She lifted her hand, signaling for her guards to step forward. They advanced with a quiet grace, their weapons humming with energy. She expected Alex to flinch, to retreat, or at least to show concern. Yet he remained still, letting them approach within arm's length without so much as a blink. "You are brave," she said, her tone sharp, almost venomous. "Or foolish, perhaps both. Tell me, human, do you know what defiance costs in my empire?" Alex's eyes did not waver. "Defiance is not foolish if it is done with reason," he replied. "And bravery is not measured by fear or danger alone. It is measured by the choice to act with integrity when others expect you to submit." A ripple of surprise ran through the court. The Valor were proud, intelligent, and unaccustomed to such calm resistance. They expected humans to argue, beg, or act out of anger. Alex offered none of these. His simple words, delivered with unwavering conviction, carried a force that no weapon could replicate. The princess stepped closer, her golden eyes narrowing. She lowered her voice, her words cutting like a blade meant only for him. "You speak boldly for one who is unarmored and unprepared. Do you not fear me? Do you not fear what I could do?" Alex's response was quiet but deliberate. "Fear does not dictate my actions. I am aware of the risks, but I choose to stand here not because I am fearless, but because I am human. My courage is not granted by weapons or armor. It is part of who I am." For a moment, the princess's composure faltered. She had underestimated this species, as countless others had before her. Humans were supposed to be weak, emotional, and easily broken. Yet here was one, calm and resolute, defying her with nothing but posture, presence, and words. Some younger Veilers exchanged nervous glances, whispering in disbelief. "Is this normal for humans?" one asked. Another responded with a hiss, unable to hide his curiosity. The older ones remained silent, their pride bruised by a reality they had long refused to acknowledge. Alex took a slow step backward, not out of fear, but to create space between them. His movements were deliberate, methodical, almost ritualistic. The court watched in rapt attention, as though observing a dance rather than a confrontation. Every motion carried meaning, every pause demanded consideration. "Your armor is impressive," he said finally, addressing the princess. "But it cannot protect you from the truth. Respect is earned, not demanded. Humility is not weakness. And the measure of a ruler is not how loudly they command, but how wisely they understand those who stand before them." The words hung in the air, striking harder than any weapon could. For the first time, the princess felt a flicker of uncertainty. She had never faced an opponent who challenged her so calmly, who stood unarmed and unbroken before her. The human soldier before her did not threaten with violence. He threatened with dignity, reason, and unshakable calm. Her advisors shifted uneasily. Some whispered about protocol and etiquette, others about the audacity of the human. No one dared interrupt. Alex's quiet defiance had captured the entire room, and in that moment, humans were no longer mere visitors. They were a presence that demanded recognition. Alex finally turned, his movements fluid yet commanding. He did not rush. He did not retreat. He simply walked off, leaving the court in a stunned silence. His departure was deliberate, a statement in itself. Humans, he demonstrated, did not need to fight to assert their strength. Their courage, intellect, and unyielding integrity were sufficient. As he left, the princess remained rooted in place. The court looked to her, waiting for a reaction. Her pride had been challenged, yet she could not deny the truth of what she had witnessed. Humans were unlike any species she had encountered. They could endure insult, stand their ground, and walk away with unshakable confidence. Alex returned to the human delegation, who watched him approach with a mixture of admiration and relief. "He handled that exceptionally," one of the diplomats whispered. Alex nodded silently. Words were unnecessary. The human soldier's actions had spoken volumes. For the first time in centuries, the Veiler princess faced a species she could not easily categorize or control. And in that moment, a seed of respect began to grow, quietly but undeniably, in the heart of an empire that prided itself on superiority. As the delegation prepared to enter the imperial court fully, Alex stood ready, not with armor, not with weapons, but with the simple power of being human. His calm had unsettled the aliens. His integrity had challenged their assumptions. And his presence alone had begun to shift the course of interstellar diplomacy in ways no one could yet predict. The stars outside the viewport continued to glitter, indifferent to the struggles of empires and the quiet triumphs of humans. But inside the Veiler halls, history had already begun to bend. One human soldier, unarmed and unshaken, had reminded a proud alien empire that courage, dignity, and calm defiance could never be measured by armor, weapons, or rank. They were qualities that belonged solely to the spirit of humanity. The Veiler court had not forgotten the human soldier who had walked in unarmored and unmoved. Whispers filled the high-ceilinged chamber, a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. The younger courtiers clicked and hissed among themselves, trying to decipher the human's actions. Even the older Veilers, who prided themselves on centuries of wisdom and authority, could not hide their unease. Sergeant Alex Rains had done something no alien had ever expected. He had refused to play their game of intimidation and had done so without anger or fear. The princess, whose name was Lorinthia, stood at the center of the hall, her golden eyes following Alex as he returned to his delegation. She had thought her insult would provoke anger, submission, or at the very least some form of flustered reaction. Instead, she had been met with calm, deliberate defiance. It unsettled her more than she cared to admit. She had ruled her people with pride and cunning for decades, and yet this human soldier had shaken her confidence in ways she did not yet understand. Alex observed the court quietly. He had not come here to entertain or provoke. His goal was simple: to demonstrate that humans could stand with dignity even when insulted, and that their strength was not in weapons or armor alone, but in their courage, intelligence, and resilience. Every motion, every glance, every word he spoke had been intentional. As the initial shock in the court began to settle, Lorinthia straightened her posture. She would not allow one human to disrupt her authority. She raised her hand, signaling for the court to quiet. The sound of clicks and soft hisses faded into silence. Her gaze returned to Alex. "You are audacious, human," she said, her voice firm though with an undercurrent of curiosity. "Few dare to show such disregard for protocol in my presence. I wonder, do you not fear the consequences of such defiance?" Alex did not flinch. He met her gaze calmly. "Fear is natural," he said, "but fear alone does not define us. We act not because we are fearless, but because we understand our values and choose to uphold them. Humanity has survived countless dangers, both within and beyond our world, by standing firm even when fear is present." A murmur spread through the court. The Veilers had always believed themselves superior, their culture steeped in hierarchy and tradition. They were strong, intelligent, and cautious, yet they had never encountered a species that could respond to insult with composure rather than anger or submission. The human soldier was teaching them a lesson they had not anticipated. That strength could manifest quietly, without aggression. Lorinthia narrowed her eyes. She had spent her life observing other species, noting their weaknesses and exploiting them when necessary. Yet this human presented no obvious weakness. His calm, his dignity, his presence, all of it seemed unshakable. She decided to test him further. "Very well," she said, her voice smooth but sharp. "If you are so confident, then demonstrate it. My court does not take kindly to insolence, and my patience is not infinite. You will explain, human, why your species believes it can enter our empire with such disregard for tradition." Alex stepped forward, his bare hands relaxed at his sides. "Our species understands respect," he said, "but we also understand dignity. Respect is earned through actions, not demanded through threats or intimidation. We do not seek to disrupt your traditions, princess, but we will not compromise our own integrity to conform to them. Humanity values courage, honesty, and reason above appearances or titles." The court was silent again, but this time the silence was different. There was tension in the air, as if a heavy weight had settled on everyone present. Lorinthia felt the stirrings of doubt, the first hints that perhaps she had misjudged humans. Her pride urged her to dismiss Alex's words, yet something deeper inside her could not ignore the truth he conveyed. One of her advisors, a tall, silver-scaled Veiler with an expression of skepticism, leaned forward. "Your Highness," he said in a soft, measured tone, "perhaps this human's behavior is unusual, but unusual does not mean wise. What if he is deceiving us? What if this is a ruse, and he intends to insult further or cause harm?" Alex's gaze shifted toward the advisor, calm and steady. "Deception is a risk with any species," he said, "but we choose honesty because it allows trust to grow. Humanity survives not by trickery alone, but by cooperation, understanding, and courage. We have learned that fear and intimidation may work in the short term, but they do not sustain civilizations." The advisor blinked, taken aback. He had expected fear or hesitation, yet Alex spoke with a certainty that was impossible to ignore. Even the young courtiers exchanged nervous glances. They had been taught to read power and weakness in body language, tone, and posture. Alex's composure defied all their training. Lorinthia stepped closer, her presence commanding attention. "Your words are eloquent," she said, "but words are not enough in my empire. Actions matter far more than speech. How do you intend to demonstrate that your species is worthy of standing here, unafraid, unarmored, and unbroken?" Alex did not hesitate. He took a slow, deliberate step toward the center of the hall, then another, moving with a grace that spoke of discipline and experience. "I do not need to prove worth through displays of violence or submission," he said. "Humanity's strength is in endurance, in intelligence, and in moral courage. If you wish to see our value, observe how we navigate challenges, how we adapt, and how we stand for what is right even when the odds are against us." A low murmur passed through the court. The younger Veilers whispered among themselves, their eyes wide with fascination. They had never seen such calm confidence in the face of potential danger. The older members of the court stiffened, realizing that their assumptions about humans were being challenged. Lorinthia's golden eyes narrowed. She had expected confrontation, chaos, or fear. Instead, she found herself facing an unarmed, unflinching human soldier who commanded attention simply by being present. She had underestimated this species, and it was unsettling. "Do you truly believe that your species' values are enough to survive in a galaxy filled with empires like mine?" she asked, her voice sharp, challenging, yet tinged with genuine curiosity. Alex met her gaze steadily. "We have survived against countless threats, some natural, some man-made, some from beyond our solar system. Our strength is not in our technology alone, nor in our weapons. It is in our unity, our courage, and our capacity to act with integrity even when it is difficult. That is why we survive. That is why we thrive." The princess leaned back slightly, considering his words. They were simple, direct, and yet carried a weight that was difficult to dismiss. Her advisors exchanged anxious glances. Even they could feel the truth in Alex's statement. Humans were not the easiest species to understand, nor the easiest to intimidate, but they were resilient, and their resilience was visible in this one soldier. One of the younger Veilers, unable to contain curiosity, stepped forward. "But he is only one human," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "How can a single individual represent an entire species?" Alex's response was calm, almost gentle. "I do not stand here alone. I stand as part of humanity, which has endured for millennia despite overwhelming odds. One human may appear small, but we act as a species that values strength in ways that cannot always be measured by numbers alone. Courage, integrity, and resilience are contagious. One individual can show the potential of an entire species." The court fell silent again. The younger Veilers looked at each other, unsure how to respond. The older ones, however, began to nod subtly, recognizing the truth in Alex's words. Lorinthia, for all her pride and authority, could not deny the impact of his presence. "Your confidence is remarkable," she said finally, her voice softer but no less commanding. "You walk into my court, unarmored, and speak of your species as if it can endure any challenge. It is bold and perhaps foolish, but there is power in your conviction." Alex inclined his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. "Boldness is not foolishness if it is backed by preparation and integrity," he said. "Humanity has survived because we act with purpose, not because we are reckless. We face the unknown not with fear alone, but with courage, intelligence, and unity." Lorinthia studied him carefully. This human soldier was unlike any being she had ever encountered. He was calm, composed, and unwavering. He had been insulted, challenged, and tested, and he had responded without anger, without retreat, and without fear. He had shown that humanity's strength lay not in intimidation or status, but in something deeper, something that demanded respect. Finally, she gestured for the court to stand down. The murmurs faded and silence returned. "Very well," she said. "You have made your point, human. Perhaps there is more to your species than I have assumed. We shall see if your actions match your words in the days to come." Alex returned to his delegation, moving with calm purpose. He did not gloat, nor did he show pride. His presence alone had spoken volumes. The humans around him exchanged glances, a mixture of relief and admiration. One diplomat whispered, "He handled that better than we could have imagined." Alex nodded silently. Words were unnecessary. The human soldier had done what humans often did best: demonstrate strength through composure, courage, and integrity rather than through aggression. As the delegation prepared to continue their diplomatic mission within the Veiler court, Alex remained alert. He knew that the princess would test him further, that the Empire would challenge humanity in ways they could not yet imagine. But he also knew that his species had something the Veilers had not fully grasped: a quiet, unwavering strength that could not be measured by weapons, armor, or intimidation alone. In that moment, the human soldier understood something profound. Diplomacy was not just about words or treaties. It was about presence, conviction, and the ability to show that humans could stand tall even when surrounded by beings who expected submission. His calm defiance had already begun to shift perceptions, planting a seed of respect in an empire that had never thought to fear or admire humanity. The stars outside the viewport continued to shine, indifferent to the struggles of empires. But inside the Valor halls, change was quietly underway. One human soldier, unarmored and unshaken, had reminded a proud alien empire that courage, integrity, and composure could be more powerful than any weapon. And the first steps of interstellar respect between humans and the Valor had been taken, not through force, but through the quiet, undeniable power of a human standing firm. Days passed in the Valor capital, each one more tense and more revealing than the last. Sergeant Alex Rains moved through the halls of the Imperial Palace with a calm determination, never hurried, never flustered. The Valor princess, Laurinthia, had observed him closely since their first encounter. At first, she had expected him to falter, to reveal the weaknesses she believed all humans possessed. But with every passing hour, she discovered that he did not act out of fear, ego, or pride. His presence was steady, his demeanor unshakable, and his mind alert. The palace itself was a labyrinth of towering corridors, gleaming floors, and high windows that overlooked the city below. The Valor court had long prided itself on its order, its tradition, and its ability to assess every foreign visitor for weakness. Yet Alex had confounded them at every turn. He did not yield to intimidation, nor did he attempt to deceive. His calmness was a weapon the Valors could not understand. Laurinthia summoned him one morning to a private chamber within the palace. The room was circular, with walls of translucent crystal that shimmered with soft light. Outside, the city hummed with alien activity, ships moving through the sky and citizens walking the elevated streets. The princess stood at the center, her golden eyes fixed on him. "Human," she said, her voice carefully controlled, "I have been observing you. Your calmness is unusual. Most species respond to insult or challenge with anger or fear. You have shown neither. I am curious. Do you truly understand what it means to face danger?" Alex stepped forward, hands relaxed at his sides. "I understand danger," he said. "I have faced it many times, but I do not let it control me. Humanity has survived against countless threats, storms, plagues, wars, and conflicts across the stars. We act with courage and reason, even when fear is present, because those actions define us more than fear ever could." Laurinthia's lips pressed into a thin line. She had expected more defiance, more emotion, perhaps even a hint of fear that she could exploit. Instead, she was met with honesty, clarity, and confidence. It unsettled her, though she would not admit it aloud. "You speak well," she said, her voice smooth but cold. "But words alone do not survive in my empire. Actions do. Your species may have survived in the past, but how can I trust that you will endure in the face of my people? The Valor have fought and conquered civilizations across many star systems. We do not forgive weakness, nor do we tolerate arrogance." Alex did not flinch. "We do not claim to be invincible," he said, "but we do claim to act with integrity. We have faced civilizations stronger than our own, yet we continue to learn, adapt, and survive. Strength is not just about conquest. It is about understanding, courage, and the ability to stand firm when others doubt you." For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Laurinthia studied him, her mind calculating, analyzing, searching for a flaw that she had not yet found. She had underestimated humans, and now she was forced to reassess her assumptions. This soldier before her was not just brave. He was composed, intelligent, and unyielding. His presence alone challenged everything she had believed about foreign species. "Very well," she said finally. "I will test you further. Not with weapons, not with intimidation, but with observation. You will accompany me on a mission within the city. There are situations that require quick thinking, understanding of others, and moral judgment. Let us see how your species handles the real world beyond courtly displays." Alex inclined his head. "I am ready." They left the palace together, moving through the bustling streets of the Valor capital. Citizens paused to watch the princess and her human companion. Some whispered among themselves, curious about this foreign species that moved with such calm assurance. Others looked on with suspicion, expecting failure or error. Yet Alex's composure never wavered. He observed carefully, noting details, assessing situations, and understanding the behaviors of those around him. As they walked, they came across a group of young Veilers trapped on a precarious platform above the city streets. A structural malfunction had left them stranded, their energy belts flickering dangerously. Lorinthia raised her hand, intending to command the palace guards to intervene. Alex, however, stepped forward without hesitation. "We can help them," he said calmly. "We do not need to wait for orders." He moved with precision, directing the citizens nearby to secure ropes and stabilize the platform. Using his knowledge of physics, balance, and human ingenuity, he coordinated a safe rescue. The young Veilers, initially terrified, followed his instructions without question. Within minutes, all of them were safely back on solid ground. Lorinthia watched silently, her golden eyes narrowing with both respect and disbelief. The humans had no special technology here beyond what Alex could carry or use intelligently. Yet he had solved the problem with calm reasoning, quick action, and courage. He had not rushed, panicked, or sought recognition. He had acted because it was the right thing to do. "Impressive," she said finally once the rescued youths were safe. "You act with efficiency, calmness, and foresight. Your species is unlike any I have encountered." Alex shrugged lightly, the faintest hint of a smile touching his lips. "We do what is necessary." Courage is not about showing off. It is about doing the right thing, even when it is difficult. The princess studied him closely, trying to reconcile her pride with the undeniable truth she was witnessing. She had expected a human soldier to be aggressive, reckless, or fearful. Instead, Alex demonstrated composure, intellect, and moral strength. Each action reinforced what he had said in court. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or dominance, but in courage, reason, and integrity. As they continued their walk through the city, a sudden commotion drew their attention. A merchant's hovercart had lost control, threatening to crash into the crowded street below. Panic spread among the citizens, who scattered in all directions. Without hesitation, Alex ran forward, analyzing the situation instantly. He calculated the trajectory of the cart, shouted clear instructions to nearby Veilers, and positioned himself to intervene physically if necessary. Using quick, precise movements, he stabilized the cart just enough to prevent disaster. The crowd gasped and cheered. Lorinthia, however, remained silent, watching him with a mixture of awe and internal conflict. "You act with remarkable precision," she said quietly once the situation was under control. "I had assumed your species relied on brute force or technology to solve problems, yet you solve them with thought, observation, and calm action." Alex nodded. "Strength is not always measured in force. Humans survive and thrive because we think, adapt, and act with clarity. That is why we endure challenges that might overwhelm others." For the first time, Lorinthia felt a flicker of something unfamiliar: respect. She had ruled with pride and authority for centuries, confident in her ability to assess strength and weakness in others. Yet here was a human soldier, unarmed, calm, and resolute, who had repeatedly demonstrated qualities that surpassed mere physical power or imperial might. As they returned to the palace, word of Alex's actions spread quickly. Courtiers and citizens alike discussed the human soldier who acted decisively, calmly, and effectively. Rumors of his deeds reached every corner of the capital, painting a picture of a species that was capable, intelligent, and resilient beyond what the Veilers had imagined. Inside the palace, Lorinthia convened her advisors. "This human soldier," she said, her voice steady but thoughtful, "is more than he appears. He does not act recklessly, nor does he seek glory. His actions demonstrate intelligence, courage, and moral judgment. He represents a species that may be underestimated at great cost." Her advisors listened, some nodding slowly, others still skeptical. They had always relied on experience, tradition, and hierarchy to guide their judgments. Yet Alex had challenged all of their assumptions with calm, consistent action. Later that evening, Lorinthia requested a private meeting with Alex. The chamber was quiet, illuminated by soft crystal light. She studied him closely, her expression unreadable. "You have done well today," she said finally. "You have acted decisively and with clarity. You have proven that your species possesses qualities that my empire has rarely seen in others. Yet I must ask, are all humans like you? Or is this, unique to your training, your temperament?" Alex met her gaze evenly. "Humanity is diverse just like any species. Not all of us act the same way, but what I can say is this: we survive because our values guide us. Courage, integrity, reasoning, and unity allow us to endure what others cannot. Even when faced with unfamiliar worlds, hostile conditions, or challenging situations, humans have a remarkable capacity to rise to the occasion. Lorinthia nodded slowly. She could not deny the truth of his words. His calm, steady confidence had revealed something profound about his species, something that could not be ignored or dismissed. "Perhaps," she said finally, "we will learn more from your species than I had anticipated. Your actions today have unsettled me in ways that are both frustrating and enlightening." Alex inclined his head. "Learning is mutual," he said. "We have much to teach and much to learn. That is the way civilizations endure and thrive." The princess regarded him silently, her golden eyes reflecting a mixture of pride, respect, and the faintest trace of humility. She had expected confrontation, fear, or submission. Instead, she had witnessed calmness, intelligence, courage, and integrity. She realized that humans were not to be underestimated, and that their strength was more subtle, yet potentially more enduring, than brute force or imperial might. As Alex left the chamber, he felt no triumph, no pride, only the quiet certainty that humanity had once again demonstrated its resilience. His calm defiance, combined with intelligence and moral courage, had begun to shift perceptions within the Valar Empire. And in doing so, he had taken another step toward earning respect, not through weapons or intimidation, but through the quiet, undeniable power of being human. The stars outside the palace windows continued to shimmer, eternal and indifferent. Yet inside the Valar capital, a change had begun. One human soldier, steady and unshaken, had shown that courage, integrity, and intelligence could outshine arrogance and pride. And as the night deepened, Lorinthia could not help but wonder how this small, unassuming species would continue to challenge her expectations, and perhaps the expectations of the galaxy itself. The following morning, the palace was alive with a different energy. Word of Sergeant Alex Rains' actions the previous day had spread throughout the Valar capital. Citizens, courtiers, and even high-ranking officials discussed the human soldier in hushed, excited tones. He had saved lives, solved problems calmly, and demonstrated courage and intelligence that few had believed possible. Humanity, once dismissed as a primitive species, was now being reconsidered in the eyes of an entire empire. Princess Lorinthia summoned Alex to her private chamber once more. This time her expression was measured, her golden eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity, respect, and restrained pride. She had spent hours observing him, analyzing his behavior, and assessing what it truly meant to face a species like humanity. "You have proven much, human," she said. "Your actions in the city have been exemplary. You show intelligence, courage, and composure in situations where most would falter. But tell me, do you not tire of being tested, of being constantly observed and judged?" Alex stood quietly, hands relaxed at his sides. "Perhaps," he said. "But I understand the importance of earning trust, and I know that actions speak louder than words. Humanity has survived and thrived because we act with integrity and courage, even under scrutiny. Being observed is not a burden, it is an opportunity to show what we are capable of." Lorinthia regarded him thoughtfully. She had ruled for decades, and in all that time she had seldom encountered a being who could remain unshaken under pressure. Most species would react with fear, anger, or cunning deception. Alex had demonstrated none of these. Instead, he had acted calmly, wisely, and morally. He had earned respect without raising a weapon or uttering a threat. "You speak of integrity and courage," she said slowly. "Yet my empire has always relied on power, strategy, and hierarchy. How do you expect your species to survive in a galaxy where strength is often measured by conquest and intimidation?" Alex met her gaze steadily. "Strength is measured in many ways," he replied. "Weapons and power can conquer, but they cannot sustain. Humanity survives because we understand collaboration, intelligence, and moral courage. We endure because we face challenges with reason, persistence, and unity. Those qualities are not always visible in battle, but they shape the fate of civilizations." The princess nodded slowly, considering his words. She had underestimated humans for far too long. They had been dismissed as weak, emotional, and impulsive. Yet here was a single human who had shown her a depth of strength that she could not ignore. His calm presence and deliberate actions were more powerful than any display of force. "You have done more than survive," she said quietly. You have taught me that humanity cannot be judged by appearance or expectation alone. Perhaps your species is stronger than I had imagined. Alex inclined his head. Strength comes in many forms, he said. We survive not because we dominate, but because we understand, adapt, and act with purpose. Courage, intelligence, and integrity are qualities that define us more than any weapon or title. For the first time, Lorinthia allowed herself a faint smile. She had expected confrontation, tension, and challenge, yet what she had witnessed was far more profound. This human soldier had not only acted wisely and bravely, but he had also demonstrated the essence of his species. Humans did not rely solely on technology or physical strength. They relied on something deeper, their spirit, their values, and their unyielding will. You have earned respect, human, she said finally. Not because of your actions alone, but because of the manner in which you act. You do not seek recognition, yet your deeds inspire it. You are unarmored, yet your presence carries authority. I have underestimated your species, and I will not make that mistake again. Alex nodded, his calm composure unwavering. Respect is mutual, he said. We have much to learn from one another. Humanity seeks cooperation as much as understanding, and we believe that true strength comes from working together rather than dominating. The princess studied him for a long moment, her mind racing. The court had watched as he acted decisively, calmly, and morally. The citizens had witnessed his courage and intelligence firsthand. Lorinthia realized that humans were unlike any species she had encountered. They could endure insult without retaliation, act decisively under pressure, and inspire respect without demanding it. "Very well," she said, her voice steady. "You will sit with me at the council today. Not as an equal in title, but as an equal in principle. Your insight and judgment are valuable, and your actions have demonstrated that you are worthy of consideration." Alex inclined his head once more. He did not rush or boast. He had acted with calm purpose from the beginning, and he continued to do so now. The human delegation followed him quietly, observing as he was welcomed into a chamber that had rarely seen outsiders given such regard. The council assembled around a large circular table, the golden light of the chamber reflecting off their crystalline surfaces. Lorinthia gestured for Alex to speak first. He reviewed the current negotiations between humanity and the Valar Empire, offering insights based on logic, observation, and morality. His suggestions were practical, forward-thinking, and aligned with the principles he had demonstrated: cooperation, reason, and integrity. The Valar Council listened carefully. Some were skeptical at first, questioning his proposals and methods. But as Alex explained his reasoning, demonstrating clear cause and effect, the advisors began to nod, acknowledging the wisdom in his words. They saw that humanity did not rely solely on power, but on intellect, insight, and the ability to anticipate and solve problems thoughtfully. Throughout the meeting, Lorinthia observed quietly. Her initial skepticism had been replaced by something she could not ignore: respect. Alex had acted consistently, calmly, and wisely. He had earned his place not through threat or force, but through presence, reasoning, and integrity. She realized that humans were a species capable of both great courage and great understanding, qualities that were rare even among the most advanced civilizations. When the council adjourned, the Valar advisors spoke among themselves in quiet tones. Many expressed amazement at Alex's demeanor, his calm authority, and his ability to inspire confidence without demanding it. The younger members of the council were particularly affected, seeing in him an example of a species that could challenge expectations without arrogance or aggression. Outside the council chamber, Lorinthia approached Alex privately. "You have done more than I expected," she said softly. "Your species has shown resilience, intelligence, and courage. I underestimated humanity, and I acknowledge that now. You walk unarmed into our halls, yet your presence commands attention. You have taught me that strength is not always visible, and that courage and integrity can be more powerful than any weapon." Alex inclined his head. "We have much to offer and much to learn," he said. "Humans survive because we rely on our values, our unity, and our ability to face challenges with reason and courage. That is why we endure, and that is why we can stand proudly among other civilizations." Lorinthia studied him for a long moment, her expression softening. She had ruled her empire with pride and authority for decades, yet Alex had shown her something profound. His actions, his composure, and his presence had revealed the true power of humanity, a power that relied not on dominance, but on intelligence, integrity, and unwavering courage. "You have earned my respect, Alex Rains," she said finally. "And through you, I have learned to see humanity in a new light. Your species will not be underestimated again." Alex nodded quietly, understanding the gravity of her words. He did not celebrate, for humans rarely sought recognition. Instead, he simply acknowledged the moment, knowing that respect had been earned through consistent action, courage, and integrity. In the following days, the human delegation worked alongside the Valar Empire more closely than ever before. Alex continued to demonstrate calm judgment, insight, and leadership. The citizens of the capital observed him with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. The council took his advice seriously, recognizing that his approach was practical, reasoned, and morally sound. Lorinthia watched him frequently, noting how his quiet strength influenced the court and the people. She realized that humans possessed a resilience that went beyond technology, strategy, or physical power. They could endure insults, solve complex problems, and act with courage and integrity, all without arrogance or threat. One evening, as the sun of the distant star system set behind the crystalline towers of the capital, Lorinthia approached Alex again. "I have observed much in the past days," she said. "Your species is remarkable, not because of your weapons or your armor, but because of your courage, intelligence, and integrity. You have shown me that humans are capable of standing proud, even in the face of an empire." Alex looked out at the city below, his expression calm but thoughtful. "Humans endure because we act with reason, courage, and unity. We respect those who act with integrity, and we expect the same in return. That is the way we survive, thrive, and grow stronger with every challenge we face." For the first time, Lorinthia allowed herself a genuine smile. The human soldier had not only earned her respect, but he had also taught her something vital. That strength was not always measured by weapons, power, or fear. True strength could be quiet, steady, and unwavering. It could be demonstrated through courage, intelligence, and integrity, qualities that could outshine even the most powerful empire. As Alex prepared to return to the human delegation, Lorinthia spoke one final time. "You have proven humanity's worth. Your species will not be underestimated again. Walk with confidence, soldier, for you carry the example of your people with you." Alex nodded silently, his calm demeanor unchanged. He did not boast, nor did he seek recognition. Yet in that moment, he had accomplished something far greater than personal achievement. He had shown that humanity, even when faced with an alien empire that prided itself on superiority, could stand with courage, dignity, and unwavering integrity. The Valar Empire had begun to see humans not as primitive or weak, but as a species capable of enduring, learning, and thriving through reason, courage, and unity. And in the quiet, steady presence of one human soldier, an entire species had begun to earn the respect it had long deserved. The stars beyond the palace shimmered, eternal and indifferent. Yet within the halls of the Valar Empire, a seed of understanding had been planted. One human soldier, unarmored and unshaken, had reminded a proud empire that true strength was measured not in intimidation or dominance, but in courage, integrity, intelligence, and the quiet power of humanity. And as Alex walked back to his delegation, the weight of that example followed him, not as arrogance or pride, but as the steady, undeniable presence of a species that refused to be underestimated and would continue to stand proud, wherever the stars might lead them.